A flight attendant, Chloe, dismisses a poised black woman boarding a private jet, assuming she isn't the VIP passenger. Acting on prejudice, Chloe has the woman's designer suitcase removed, only to later discover she is Naomi Carter, the billionaire owner of the jet and a trailblazing advocate for equality. Chloe's racist assumptions and the humiliation she imposes on Naomi set the stage for a tense confrontation, forcing her to confront her own biases. The story explores themes of unconscious racism, privilege, and redemption, leaving audiences infuriated by Chloe's actions while intrigued by the fallout of her judgment. Chloe adjusted the lapel of her freshly ironed blazer, the subtle scent of lavender starch wafting up as she glanced at her reflection in the mirrored paneling of the cabin. It was her first assignment on an exclusive charter jet, a career-defining leap from commercial aviation. Today wasn't just about serving drinks or fluffing pillows. It was about proving herself in the high-stakes world of luxury air travel. She whispered under her breath, "Don't blow it, Chloe. This is your moment." The buzz around the flight was palpable. Rumors hinted that an enigmatic VIP, one of the most high-profile clients the airline had ever served, was scheduled to board. The crew had spent hours perfecting every detail of the cabin, from the placement of orchids to the temperature of the champagne. Chloe was determined to leave a lasting impression on her superiors. As she peered out of the jet's panoramic window, a striking figure caught her eye. Descending from a sleek black car was a tall, graceful woman with deep brown skin that seemed to glow in the afternoon sun. She wore a tailored ivory trench coat, its belt cinched perfectly at her waist, and a pair of classic heels that clicked elegantly against the tarmac. A structured designer suitcase followed behind her, its polished hardware glinting like jewels. For a fleeting moment, Chloe admired the woman's effortless poise, but then doubt crept in like an unwelcome shadow. That can't be the VIP, she thought, her mind racing through the list of preconceived images she associated with high-profile clientele. Chloe forced a tight smile as she stepped out to intercept the passenger. "Good afternoon," Chloe said, her voice sharp with forced politeness. "I'll need to see your boarding confirmation. This flight is reserved for a very exclusive guest." The woman's eyes flickered with surprise, but her composure remained unshaken. She retrieved an embossed envelope from her handbag and handed it over without a word. "This must be a misunderstanding," Chloe muttered, her voice dropping as she barely skimmed the contents. "I'll need to verify your luggage just in case." The passenger hesitated, her brow arching ever so slightly. "Is that really necessary?" she asked, her tone calm but firm. Chloe, determined to assert control, offered no explanation. "It's protocol," she lied, gesturing for the suitcase. As the passenger ascended the stairs into the jet, Chloe's irritation simmered beneath her professional exterior. Something about the woman's unwavering confidence felt almost defiant. When Chloe tried to lift the suitcase into the storage compartment, its weight surprised her, fueling her suspicion. "What's in here, Bricks?" she muttered under her breath before calling for assistance to have the luggage removed from the cabin entirely. The jet's engines roared to life, and Chloe exhaled in relief as the aircraft lifted into the clouds. It wasn't until the captain emerged from the cockpit mid-flight that her heart sank. "Where's Naomi?" the captain asked, scanning the cabin. "Who?" Chloe responded, confused. "Naomi Carter," the captain clarified, visibly annoyed. "The CEO and owner of this jet, she should be seated by now." The blood drained from Chloe's face. She stammered, I thought she wasn't the passenger. I removed her luggage and—" The captain's expression darkened. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Naomi Carter isn't just a billionaire. She's a global icon and philanthropist. This jet belongs to her." Chloe's stomach churned as the realization hit her like a thunderbolt. The woman she had dismissed and mistreated was not only the rightful passenger, but also the person funding her paycheck. She felt a pang of guilt as she replayed every moment, every judgmental thought, and every dismissive word. As the flight continued, Chloe couldn't shake the weight of her actions. Her mind swirled with questions. How had she let her unconscious bias dictate her behavior? How had she failed to treat someone with the basic respect they deserved? When the plane landed, Chloe knew she owed Naomi Carter an apology. But whether Naomi would accept it was another matter entirely. This wasn't just about a professional misstep for Chloe. It marked the beginning of an uncomfortable but necessary journey towards self-awareness and growth. Sometimes, the most humiliating mistakes are the ones that teach us the most profound lessons. "I've got it," Chloe insisted, her tone brisk as she tightened her grip on the leather handle of the suitcase. Without waiting for permission, she tugged it free from the passenger's hand. Her actions were firm, deliberate, a clear assertion of authority. The message was unmistakable. This passenger didn't belong here. Chloe marched toward the jet's door, signaling to the ground crew to remove the suitcase from the cabin. "There's no room for this here," she muttered under her breath, though she hadn't bothered to check if that was true. At the top of the stairs, the woman stood silently, her expression betraying only the faintest flicker of irritation. "Is there truly no space left?" she asked, her voice calm but laced with quiet strength. Chloe shrugged dismissively, masking her discomfort with forced nonchalance. "We need to prioritize storage for our VIP guest, I'm sure you understand." The woman's gaze lingered on Chloe, searching perhaps for something unsaid, but instead of arguing, she simply nodded and ascended the final steps into the opulent cabin. Chloe exhaled, feeling a hollow sense of satisfaction as she turned her attention to the pre-flight checks. Inside the jet, the passenger settled into her seat, her movements graceful and unhurried. Chloe, meanwhile, busied herself with safety protocols, ignoring the tension that hung in the air like static. Minutes later, the pilot's voice crackled through the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today. We are honored to have Ms. Naomi Carter, the owner of this aircraft, joining us on our journey." Chloe froze. Her clipboard slipped from her hands, clattering onto the floor. Naomi Carter. The name echoed in her mind like a thunderclap. Her heart dropped as realization dawned. She knew that name. Who didn't? Naomi Carter was a tech visionary, a billionaire entrepreneur who had shattered glass ceilings in the male-dominated tech industry. She was a celebrated philanthropist, known for championing social justice and diversity, and Chloe had just thrown her luggage off the plane. Her pulse raced as she stole a glance toward Naomi. The woman sat composed, a tablet balanced on her lap, her fingers scrolling effortlessly through a document. There was no trace of anger or resentment in her demeanor, no raised voice, no accusations, just an air of quiet authority that made Chloe's guilt unbearable. Naomi didn't need to declare who she was. Her presence alone commanded respect, and Chloe's own biases had blinded her to that truth. She had failed spectacularly, not just as a professional, but as a person. As the jet leveled off at cruising altitude, Chloe remained in the galley, gripping the edge of the counter as waves of regret crashed over her. She replayed the moment over and over, the dismissive tone in her voice, the unnecessary removal of the suitcase, the assumption she had let cloud her judgment. Naomi's silence was more unnerving than any scolding could have been. It forced Chloe to sit with the weight of her actions, to confront the uncomfortable reality of her prejudice. Finally, Naomi set aside her tablet, folding her hands neatly in her lap. She turned her sharp but calm gaze toward Chloe, who stood frozen near the galley. "May I have a cup of tea, please?" Naomi asked, her voice steady and polite, as though nothing had happened. Chloe's throat tightened. "Oh, of course," she stammered, fumbling for the teapot. Her hands shook as she poured the steaming liquid into a porcelain cup. As she carried the tea to Naomi's seat, Chloe couldn't meet her eyes. She placed the cup on the polished table before her, murmuring, "Let me know if there's anything else you need." Naomi nodded, her expression unreadable. "Thank you," she said simply, then returned her attention to the tablet. Chloe retreated to the galley, her chest heavy with shame. She wanted to say something, to apologize, but the words wouldn't come. How could she possibly make amends for what she'd done? As the flight continued, the weight of her mistake pressed down on her. This wasn't just a professional misstep, it was a reflection of her own deeply ingrained biases she had never bothered to examine. Naomi's quiet grace only magnified Chloe's discomfort, forcing her to confront the harsh truth about herself. This wasn't just a bad day at work. It was the start of a reckoning, one that Chloe could no longer avoid. "Of course," Chloe replied, her voice unsteady as she reached for the teapot. Her hands trembled slightly while she poured the hot water into a delicate porcelain cup. the steam curling upward like a quiet reminder of her mistake. She placed the cup on a small silver tray and carried it over to Naomi, carefully setting it down before her. "Here you go, Miss Carter," Chloe said softly, her voice barely audible. Naomi nodded graciously, her demeanor as composed as ever. Then, with a small gesture, she motioned toward the seat across from her. "Would you mind sitting down for a moment? I'd like to speak with you." Chloe hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. She had known this moment was inevitable, but the thought of facing Naomi's scrutiny made her feel like she might shatter. Still, she couldn't refuse. Gathering her courage, she slid into the seat, folding her hands tightly in her lap. Naomi studied her for a moment, her expression calm but authoritative. "Earlier," she began, her voice steady, "you were quite firm about my luggage. You even had it removed from the plane. Can you explain why?" Chloe's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She felt the weight of Naomi's gaze, and the words she wanted to say tangled in her throat. Finally, she managed a weak response. I thought there wasn't enough space," she stammered. "I was told we were expecting a VIP, and I wanted to make sure everything was perfect." Naomi raised an eyebrow, her lips curving slightly in a way that wasn't quite a smile. "You didn't realize I was the VIP?" Chloe swallowed hard, her shame burning in her chest. "No, I didn't," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I made an assumption, and I was wrong." Naomi's expression remained unreadable as she leaned back in her seat. "Assumptions," she said quietly. "They're a dangerous thing, aren't they? I've faced them my entire life. Because of my gender, my background, my race. People have dismissed me, underestimated me, and disrespected me, but that doesn't make it acceptable." Chloe's stomach twisted as she listened, her guilt growing with every word. "I'm so sorry, Miss Carter," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I let my biases cloud my judgment, and I acted unprofessionally. It won't happen again." Naomi's gaze softened slightly, though her tone remained firm. "Apologies are important, Chloe," she said, "but they're not enough. What matters is what you do next. Growth isn't automatic. It's a choice, and that choice is yours to make." Naomi's words echoed in Chloe's mind, long after the conversation ended. For the rest of the flight, she focused on her duties, her movements precise and deliberate, as if to atone for her earlier mistake. Naomi returned to her tablet, her quiet dignity a stark contrast to the turmoil in Chloe's heart. When the flight landed, Chloe returned to her small apartment and spent the night replaying every moment of the day. She realized her actions weren't just a professional error, they were a reflection of deeper biases she hadn't acknowledged. Memories of her upbringing, where casual stereotypes were treated as harmless, came rushing back. Those unexamined ideas had shaped her worldview, and now they stood exposed for the flaws they were. Over the next few weeks, Chloe committed herself to change. She signed up for workshops on diversity and inclusion, eager to learn how to approach her job with greater empathy. She devoured books and articles on unconscious bias, diving into the stories of people who had faced the very challenges Naomi had described. At work, she implemented small but significant changes. She greeted every passenger with genuine warmth, asking thoughtful questions instead of making snap judgments. Her newfound professionalism didn't go unnoticed. Her colleagues began to comment on her transformation, and her supervisors started entrusting her with more responsibilities. A month later, Chloe's heart raced when she saw Naomi Carter's name on the passenger manifest again. This time, she was ready. She ensured the cabin was immaculate, stocked with Naomi's favorite herbal tea and snacks. When Naomi arrived, dressed impeccably in a tailored navy suit, Chloe greeted her with a warm smile. "Welcome back, Miss Carter," she said sincerely. "It's a pleasure to have you on board." Naomi gave a small nod, her expression neutral, but not unkind. "Thank you, Chloe." Throughout the flight, Chloe maintained her professionalism, anticipating Naomi's needs without being intrusive. She made an effort to learn the names of Naomi's team members, engaging them with genuine curiosity about their work. Toward the end of the flight, Naomi called her over. Chloe approached with measured steps, her heart in her throat. "You've improved," Naomi said simply, her gaze steady. Chloe's chest swelled with relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Miss Carter," she said, her voice firm with conviction. Naomi's lips curved into a faint smile. "Keep it up. Growth is a journey, not a destination." Those words stayed with Chloe long after Naomi disembarked. Her encounter with Naomi had been humbling, but it had also been transformative. By choosing to confront her own flaws and embrace the process of growth, Chloe had not only redeemed herself, but also set the foundation for a more compassionate and inclusive approach to her work and her life. "I've been trying to do better," Chloe said, her voice steady but tinged with vulnerability. Naomi regarded her thoughtfully, her eyes softening, but still carrying the weight of expectation. "That's a good start," she replied. "But real growth isn't just about effort, it's about action." A week later, Chloe received a surprising package. Inside was an elegant invitation to a leadership seminar hosted by Naomi's foundation, along with a handwritten note: "Keep learning, keep growing. The sky is not the limit." The seminar was nothing short of transformative. Chloe sat in awe as Naomi spoke with passion about her journey, the hurdles she had overcome, and the systems she was working to change. Naomi shared personal stories of the biases she had faced and the importance of building environments where everyone, regardless of their background, could thrive. Chloe left the seminar inspired, realizing she had more work to do. While she had begun to change on a personal level, she now felt compelled to create broader, lasting impact in her workplace. Back at the airline, she approached her supervisor with an idea. "What if we implement a training program for flight crews?" she proposed. "It could focus on cultural sensitivity, empathy, and creating an exceptional experience for every passenger. We interact with people from all walks of life. It's our responsibility to treat everyone with respect and understanding." Her supervisor was hesitant but intrigued, and eventually agreed to let Chloe pilot the program. Chloe poured her heart into the project, drawing on her own experiences, lessons from Naomi's seminar, and countless hours of research. She developed modules on avoiding assumptions, navigating difficult situations with grace, and fostering a welcoming atmosphere for all. The program was a resounding success. Crew members reported feeling more confident and capable, and customer feedback reflected a noticeable improvement. In service, news of Chloe's initiative spread quickly, and it wasn't long before Naomi heard about it. One afternoon, Chloe was called into Naomi's office, a rare and nerve-wracking occurrence. As she stepped inside, she found Naomi seated behind a sleek desk, her expression calm but curious. "I've been following your progress," Naomi said, her tone measured. "Your training program is impressive. It's exactly the kind of forward-thinking approach this industry needs." Chloe's heart swelled with pride and gratitude. "Thank you, Miss Carter," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Naomi leaned forward, her expression softening. "I'd like to mentor you," she said. "I see potential in you, not just as a flight attendant but as a leader. If you're willing, I'd like to help you refine your skills and expand your perspective." Chloe was stunned. I don't know what to say, except thank you. I'd be honored." Under Naomi's mentorship, Chloe began to think beyond her immediate role. Naomi encouraged her to attend strategy meetings, learn about corporate operations, and explore how she could influence the aviation industry on a larger scale. Together, they expanded Chloe's training program into a company-wide initiative, making it a mandatory part of onboarding for all employees. Chloe also became involved with Naomi's foundation, volunteering her time to support scholarships for underrepresented students pursuing careers in STEM and aviation. At events, she shared her story openly, recounting how a single moment of thoughtless judgment had transformed her outlook. Her honesty resonated deeply, inspiring others to reflect on their own biases and embrace change. Months later, Chloe found herself boarding a high-profile flight to a European summit, not as a flight attendant, but as part of Naomi's strategic team. During the journey, she contributed to discussions about innovation and inclusivity in aviation, her ideas earning respect from even the most seasoned executives. As the jet cruised above the Atlantic, Naomi turned to her and said, "You've come a long way, Chloe. But remember, growth doesn't stop here." Chloe smiled, her confidence shining through. "I know," she replied, "and I'm ready for whatever's next." When the plane touched down, Chloe felt a deep sense of pride and purpose. She had not only redeemed herself in Naomi's eyes, but had also become a force for positive change within her industry. Chloe's journey from a judgmental flight attendant to a respected leader was a testament to the power of self-reflection and mentorship. Faced with the consequences of her actions, she had chosen to confront her flaws rather than hide from them. Through education, humility, and determination, she transformed herself and inspired those around her to do the same. At the heart of Chloe's transformation was Naomi's decision to lead with grace. By choosing to mentor rather than reprimand, Naomi demonstrated that leadership isn't just about authority, it's about creating opportunities for others to grow. Chloe's story carries a universal message. While we all carry biases, acknowledging them is the first step toward change. Her journey reminds us that our mistakes don't have to define us. They can propel us toward something greater. As Chloe reflected on her path, she no longer saw the day she mishandled Naomi's suitcase as a failure. Instead, it was the beginning of a new chapter, a turning point that set her on a journey of growth, humility, and compassion. And just as Naomi had written in her note, Chloe now truly believed, "The sky is not the limit. There is no limit."